Alrighty guys, so as you can see here by what I have right about now, I got me a clock and I'm gonna open it quick. Pretty neat. I got the colors that I would have desired. So this is gonna be a make or break kind of test. Taking a look, it's pretty tall. It's kind of top heavy, but it is very wide and pretty much just a perfect circle. Talk about Wizard Rod being a perfect circle, right? But of course, that's like a meme. It's not actually a perfect circle. They have obvious contact points, like right here. But with clock, it's like, there really isn't anything. There's like bottle cappy contact points here, but they're very minuscule compared to these contact points. And I weighed it. It's like 37.5, basically. Yeah, so this thing's like Phoenix wing weight, basically. It's pretty heavy. The big downside we have here, can only use the simple ratchets. Of course, we get a pretty good one with 965. And we get a pretty good bit with ball. And I say pretty good, but it's the best stamina bit as far as like overall consistency, in my opinion. For like general setups, you're gonna be wanting to use ball. In the same way you're gonna be wanting to use rush for general attack stuff. But we're gonna give it a try. I was thinking that they would update this part to make it hold these ratchets tighter and make them work. But I'm not feeling that. They're not that much tighter. I mean, it's a little bit tighter, but it's like, the issue is not the tightness. The issue is the tightness doesn't last. So like, if you have a normal ratchet, there's like a little bit of slide where like, that whole slide has friction. Where like this, it's like, once it disconnects, it's gone. It can be as tight as it wants, but if it just disconnects off of the slightest bit of jimmying, then it's not going to be as good. It's kind of like how tall buildings are designed with like a little bit of give to them, because if they're jimmied by an earthquake, they shake a little bit to kind of give them a buffer, whereas like this is like, it's strong, but if it gets hit wrong, it's probably bursting. Yeah, I mean, that's the story with it usually, but I don't know. Maybe TT is just trying to go for like a broken stamina type that outlasts everything, but is super easy to burst, and that's how it's like balanced, is like, cause it just bursts to fucking everything aggressive. Honestly, that'd be smart, but I don't know yet. Wizard Rod is still a full contender. Let me level with you. If this thing outspins Wizard Rod and gets burst easily by attack, then all I need to say has been said, basically. And I'll pretty much just yap for the rest of the video. But that's my hypothesis, is that like, if it can do that, then we're in business. Alright, so we got this stuff, like, that's the thing. They basically set you up with the tutorial combo. They were like, dog, we've been playing with Wizard Rod for fucking 2 years. We know how this shit works. Just put it on 960 ball already. Like, I'm using 360 for that better stamina, but yeah. Alright, let's launch. Ideally, clock just like totally. Okay, I'm gonna let it ride for a minute. I want to see how it naturally falls. Just because the amount of stamina something has is deceptive sometimes. That was stable as Mabel. Alright, so that was a fluke, right? We all know that one was a fluke. So let's make sure. It's because we launched Rod first. It's because we launched Rod first, guys. Fluke Central. We have been vindicated here. It is very easy to burst. Very, very easy. Well, I can't say that. I can't say that quite yet because I wasn't quite sure the contact on that. I'll probably slow motion it for the audience, but I'm gonna avoid that next time. The thing is, if you really think about it, because clock is restricted to the stinky ratchets, it's technically more like a 35.5. So it's essentially Wizard Rod weight. It's getting destabilized a little bit. Wide circles tend to do that. However, it's got the flame 230 tall thin style type of thing. So it's got a lot on there. Ooh, okay. Even with the destabilization present, it is going strong still. So, as you can tell, I've been keeping up with the current releases. I just haven't been making videos. And it's kind of sad. But, you know. I'm just going to go stock scale. I know it's not optimal. Oh, well then. I don't think my question could have been answered any more succinctly than that right then and there. What kind of, is that, do I need to do any more battles, guys? Do I really need to do any more battles with this combo? I can try to avoid, I can try. But I can weak launch and just be so consistent at my positioning. Like, I barely move, you can tell. I actually will get another clock if I have $20. So I'll need to see if I can get $20. But yeah, it's like, that's yikes on bikes style type of thing. Alright, well, we're gonna try new stuff now. I'm gonna do the variabilistic method, where I only change one variable at a time, and that means one part at a time. So I'm going in with this combo. I'm hoping the lowness is gonna help it with its burst a bit better. But also this setup right about here. Let's go with a more traditional shark setup, actually. This is my trad shark. I think this is what's being used. I believe it's that. I know 170 is also in the meta for it, but I don't want to go too tall to kind of like bias the whole like, oh, you still want it to be able to kind of scoop under. Obviously this can kind of scoop under. I assume the 170 is used for better like, oh, it can tilt further down because it's taller. That's why I use it. I use a 170 on my rod hex here. The thing is, if I just low max this, I'm sure that. Okay, yeah. See. See, no! But this allows for burst attack to come in. This allows for, like, stationary shit. I'm gonna go for, like, a weak bang. That's what I would assume. Even if I'm not dodging ratchet hits, I'll kind of show you after the Even if I'm not directly dodging hits to my ratchet when I'm tilted like this, instead of getting pushed, like, okay, let's look at the other side. Instead of getting hit like this and the ratchet getting pushed this way to a burst, it's getting hit like this and getting pushed, like, downward. So it's still getting pushed a little bit to the side, but it's mostly getting hit, like, downward. And that can absolutely help. Weakening you launch as well can allow for less recoil and less friction because you're not going as fast. Less RPMs behind the power. And that's the thing. It has the stamina for it. Here's the thing, I do think it's going to be vulnerable. I do think you're going to need to go lower, though. I think probably like a low rush might be better. But also, you have the mix-up of like going like 385. And that may be good. We'll see, though. I don't know. I don't really know. I'll tell you what, I'm bad with attack though, so just keep that in mind. You're probably going to... This is still going to be fragile, like, in practice. Especially if people are, like, directly out there to counter. See, that's what happens when I really try. I'm in yap sesh mode. I'm kind of just yap-arening. Which will show you that if your opponent is slacking on their launch, you definitely can. It's kind of be hard to KO because it's circular, but it may also not because it is it's tall, so it does get uppercutted hard a lot. It doesn't have the Flame 230 advantage because bays in this generation are just a lot taller in general on average, so it's just hard to get that much taller without sacrificing way too much stability. You can still cook like Walter against it. It's not going to be free, but I think if you want to make it free, you can go like a stationary, whether it be scale or edge. I think low attackers are going to find a meta if this thing does pop off. The thing with it in deck, it's probably going to pop off way harder. Because the problem with deck right now in X is it's a lot of stonewalling garbage. You just get stonewalled by a combo that you can't really do anything about. Whereas in 3v3, you don't have that problem because you're always fighting new stuff. Deck should be a game that isn't about like just spamming one thing and stonewalling. That only happens if the meta is kind of like easy to exploit. So when we have a meta now that's like, oh, okay, I now have a counter to the stamina bullcrap that is something my opponent can deal with in a fair, concise manner. I think, like, they either have to risk clock themselves to beat it, and even then it's 50-50, or they have to hoof up and go attack, but it's not actually that hard. They may even have to, like, build a deck that thinks about what the opponent wants. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Triceratops is my little skrunkly boy. He's not too good, but you gotta realize, 36 grams, he's within the threshold. He's in the club. He's in the VIP lounge. He's in the you must be this tall to meta. I'm just goofing around at this point. But it's not everything at that weight is good, but this is okay. These little hook things do itself a job. Most of it's already meta, but I think it's going to be even more, just because Clock is so vulnerable to it. And Clock is going to be the risky stamina type. It's a stamina type that's like, oh, okay, I can't just throw out Rod Ball and Hexa and win the game. I gotta put a little brain juice into it. The 450 is a dream come true. It means I can run level at low rush height. I may have to get a new hover, because I'm not sure. So I mentioned that it can beat Goon in the testing, but it is not doing that anymore. And most of my friends are not doing that anymore either. Anyone who's like used it a lot. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but it's something. It may be like, because hard nubs like that tend to wear off over time. Hehehe. See, this is the sauce y'all didn't get to see yet. The sauce on Shark that I figured out was 160 hexa. The other thing is, because you can launch so hard and have so much stamina with a stationary attack type, they can't just weak launch nearly as easily against you. I think I gotta go to the only good 2 defense bits real quick. It's these 2. These are the ones. Wedge is really fucking good. Under Needle is pretty fucking good. Let's try Under Needle first, and then I'll try Wedge. I wonder if I just golden launch this into the sun. Yeah, the thing is, the best part about Under Needle, well, okay, no. The best part about Under Needle is the fact that it's Under Needle. It's low. It's really, really low. But the second best part about it is that it can hold an angle. The reason I think these parts will synergize together is because the worst part about Under Needle is the late game. Because it becomes super unstable, it starts to scrape, it falls really fast compared to like Ball and Low Orb and stuff. Like Wedge especially, it falls slow compared to, or it falls fast compared to. But you don't even dip into the late game. A hypothesis. If this loses to this, this may be good. Because that's the thing, yeah, if it doesn't ever need to dip into the late game, it's never going to have those late game issues. So, I'm trying to think, because Free Ball has kind of bad late game, but am I really going to... Is that a worth it trade-off? I guess because the freeness may make it easier on the rails. Low Orb has bad late game. Not like bad, but like not super good late game. And oh, okay then. It was looking very much like Rod was winning that, but then it just started to look really slow all of a sudden. And I'm gonna let the late game play out like this. I'm sorry, folks, but y'all gotta see this, and I gotta see this for demonstrative purposes. Yeah, see, here we go. That's where the late game gets bad, but I think the wide clock is just like it's wide, so it's because it's extending the RPMs that it has. I guess because of the, you know what I mean. It holds on to RPMs longer because it's wider, right? But it also makes it like fall slower because it's losing RPMs slower. So it actually improves the late game. Plus, I also just think the wide shape, like because it makes it fall slower, it helps it rest at that angle and have like life after death. Ooh, okay then. Speaking of life after death, how does this compare to Goon? I gotta know how this compares to Goon. If I launch it really hard, I may not be able to steal spin. This is high. Oof, round one might have been a fluke, chat. You gotta think of Goon as a rock climber. If you have a climbable shape on your blade, then Goon is gonna climb all over you, and he's gonna get to the top of the mountain. Right? You're gonna just be the mountain that he's getting to the top of. Right? But if you got slippery little pedestals and no footholds, and you're really tall and you're slippery, then oh, Goon is not gonna have a Goon time. Okay, so not only does this squash one rat in the meta game, it also squashes the other rat. Let's talk about Goon for a second. Goon is kind of fallen off a little bit. I still think it's good because the meta in 3v3 revolves around being able to play yourself out of bad matchups and trying to minimize bad matchups in general. Something like Goon used to be king because it beat Wizard Rod, it could beat most attack if you launched well, or at least it wasn't like free for attack. It could beat Silver Wolf, pretty much anything stamina-wise. They had a few things like Rod Hexa could beat it, but other than that, you pretty much had to go out of your way to counter Goon. Now you have like Pegasus Blast that beats it, Samurai Caliber that beats it, Hover that beats it. Shark doesn't beat it, but it wins by attack often enough to matter. And just because Rod Hexa has become like the main form of Rod, Goon has kind of fallen off. I just think that like, it's still good. You can still win a lot of bad matchups with it, and it still beats a lot of stuff. But yeah, like, you can run into decks where like, oh, Goon can't really do anything here. Aside from just hope it wins 50-50. My point was basically that with both of these Beyblades, you needed to either hoof it with a really good attack launch, or you needed to have a very specific counter. So having a clock that just kind of comes in, this is what it means. It's like, I can run this as my, this covers all stamina options, kind of like Goon did. But this is fragile, so it loses to attack. So I can't just, it's not a free option. You just gotta be smart with it. You can't be too aggressive with it. You have to make sure you're putting it in a spot where it's less likely to run into an attack if you really think it's bursting a lot. If it's really like you've tried it once and it's burst, or if you don't even want to try it, you can do the secret technique that nobody knows about. Give him one of these. I'm hoping that my Beyblade dies before it can like die by burst. Okay, damn, I just barely didn't even launch that. That's so hard to make it weak though. Oh, I get you. You do a little. You just drop it off before. Yeah, this is the strat. Just do one of those. See the thing. If they have a problem with that, then that's a skill issue, I feel. Because you're wasting a point. You're wasting a point strategically. Because you could easily call them out and be like, I'm pretty sure I can survive this. Like, you can easily still get a point from winning a battle like this. But you're literally just doing a strategical flow for consistency. And I've seen it be done in the past before. And if anyone has a problem with it, then they're bad in the game. Yeah, see, something like one of these. Something like one of those. No risk of bursting or getting KO'd there, ladies and gentlemen. And then you, like, because that's the thing, right? Let's say you have a trad deck. One of these, maybe not, maybe clock replaced Goon. I honestly use Goon for defense and anti-attack, so I probably still have it. Let's say you got a lot of Hexa in there. Pretend that's 160, and you got a little Shark Ski. Even if you're wrong, right, you can make up points with this, because this just kind of wins. If you deny them of 3 points or 2 points, and then you take 2 or 3 points, instantly you have a big advantage. Instantly you have a big advantage. So, also, if I get a tech banned, it's going to be very funny. Then I have this thing to deal with whatever garbage they have. Hopefully this is going up against their attack type, and this is going up against their Rod Hexa or their Rod Ball. But I can hoof this out, like, if it's like a Rod Hexa Ditto, I can hoof it out, right? I got good balanced stuff. I'm just going to say, I didn't try weak launching with the 160 rush setup, like I did with the 450 under flat, which is I didn't think it'd be good. It's not low enough to screw with it anymore. Oh yeah, I want to test Wedge. Wedge is the devious chungus. I will attest. One of my favorite bits in the whole entire game, chat. See how it does against Rod. Let me go for a stinky tilt with an attack time. It doesn't tilt as deeply as Under Needle, but it has a more like functional tilt for general use. Yeah, it can coast off of those rail hits a lot easier. Now that it has the wedge. Yeah, the 55 is really, really good on it. It brings its height down to like a reasonable level, I think. Interesting. Okay. Let's try Hexa, because Hexa is funny, huh? I'm not sure how the extra button helps the 55 ratchets, or I guess the X5 ratchets in the case of Clock. I'm hoping it gives it a boost. But I'm almost hoping it doesn't give it a boost, so that we can just use whatever. This is just low accurate twisted tempo. Listen, I think they did the booster wrong, to be honest. I think they should have just done, like... They should have given him different combos. And they should have given this Beyblade a clear 365 or 385 and a clear Hexa. Here's the thing, I'm testing like the Hexa stuff just to be thorough. Even if this is a good attack type, it is a good defense type on Hexa, that doesn't matter. What matters is it's fragile on its stamina setups. And if you can make a stamina setup that can outlast, like if you can win the Clock Eater with a different thing, like in the same way people will be winning against Hexa with Ball with no rod to it. If you can just do that, but with Clock, the out is still there, right? This is devious and bad. Okay, yeah, let's go ball here. I kind of wish Metal Needle was allowed so I could do that. When bush resistance don't matter, we get stuff like this. Oh yeah. So this is another thing where like it's able to extend the late game so much that it really helps. Let's check out, see how long it be lasting now. Oh, that'll destroy most things. The thing is, this kind of combo is neat in theory, but it doesn't matter if it's not good at anything. Like, it doesn't matter if it can't, like, beat what it's intended to do. Like, the opportunity cost is huge. Okay. I'll launch a little bit harder this time. I kind of beat it with, like, 1% of my power. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I'm not even launching like that hard, that high. I burst, I think. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can just kind of like... Alright, so I've been memeing on this Beyblade the whole time. I've been thinking about it. I know you've been thinking about it if you're a keen viewer. Guess what part I'm going to try out next, chat? Yeah, that's right. It's Metal 85. My guess is the under needle is going to be what comes out of it. Because that is low. M85 under needle is also good on Wizard Rod. So, this being better Wizard Rod, we may see some magic happen. I definitely launched Rod a little bit harder. But this is going to help the wide shape from being as, like, destabilizable. It's inward weight, keep in mind. It's not outward weight, so it's mainly going to be helping with stability. It may even reduce stamina a tiny bit. But it's hard to say if it will do that because more metal is more metal. That's the thing, it's neat, but what is it doing? Let's try it on low orb, see if it cooks. Let's see what it does against Shark. See, I wish I had two clocks, because I would totally do like an M85 versus like otherwise testing. Real quick. I'm going to try the quick combination. Okay, chat, you are going to witness one of the coolest things of all time. So, normal style type of Silver Wolf, right? We take ourselves a look-ski daisy at the things here. Little tiny nubskis. This is an A3. I don't know if y'all can tell yourself about this, but these are big chungus nubskis. And I noticed these. Let's see if I can get a side by side. This is the infamous A8 mold one. And my story behind getting this was I was fed up with my current Silver Wolf, the other one I showed, being bad at stamina. And like there's something wrong with it, it was bad with stamina. And I was mad, so I was at a shop that they sold Beyblades, so I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna go buy a new Silver Wolf. And it has really good balance and stamina. So we're going to try this out. The combo I like on it is Wall Ball, because Wall Ball, it has that wall around it. And it basically fixes Wolf's bad late game. Wedge also does that, but this doesn't and is a ball, so that means it already has good late game, and it fixes its late game twice, basically. Okay, clock one. Let's try normal ball, because normal ball is actually better. It mellowed out my 450 though, which is humongous, chungus. And it's because it can't shake because it's an A4 mold, I'm guessing. It's basically 450 shakes, and that's why. Like, it's the white part on the inside of the ratchet. Like, this white part is a little skinnier, a little less wide, so it basically just doesn't connect fully. Attack stuff is fine because it's, you know, moving around, but stamina stuff gets fucked by it. But clock maxing. The thing is, Shark has more stamina than the average bear, so it's definitely an uphill battle when you're trying to weaken against it. Yeah, I think this should stick to being a rod combo, to be honest. Because on rod it's sick, but the extra friction on the tip means you're going to be bursting easier. I'm going to be honest, we're just going to make the mean.
Really tall?
Under Needle seems to be really good. This one, Low Orb, I'm pretty sure is gonna be good. Yeah, I'm not super surprised. This is kind of how it goes. I'm just, again, we're gonna see the late game. So, I'm going to do a little bit of talking while I show off a few battles. Clock. As far as the meta goes, Clock adds a very specific thing to the meta. And that is, you now have a counter to the cringe. You now have a counter to things like Wizard Rod Hexa and Dragoony. And like I mentioned that earlier, but the implications for that is now we're going to be able to have a more fair, consistent, and rewarding rock, paper, scissors system. There's going to be better feedback, right? When you use an attack type against Rod, you never feel like you're in advantage state. Unless you're really good and they have a bad, like, Rod or like bad launch. This is going to be a way for people to beat Rod with certainty and consistency, and beat Goon with certainty and consistency without having to go beat it with attack. Because let's be honest, I know we've gotten better at KOing Rod, but it's still a pretty tanky circle, and it's still pretty hard to KO. So, even on its like ball form, it's still like pretty decently difficult compared to like what stamina should be. Going for a boosting approach was a lot smarter. I actually think Takara Tomy made a super duper genius combo with this. And I mentioned it in the Go Circle video. I was just like, if they can make a blade that's like from the top a really good like perfect circle stamina type that beats Rod, and from the side super vulnerable to attack, you would have something that's really good. And I thought that was what Go Circle was going to be. Instead of what it was ass. But they did that in essence by basically making it so if you're fighting a stamina type, it's not really going to burst very often unless things go really wrong. But if you're fighting an attack and you're really getting smacked around, even if they don't get the KO, they're going to burst you. My problem was like, how do you make an even more perfect circle that has more stamina without destabilization and is still vulnerable to attack because you're just going to make a more heavier perfect circle. And they did that, but they found a solution with these stinky ratchets. So I think that whoever designed this was very smart, and this is a great balancing decision. Because, yeah, you can't just launch in the corner, right? There's a little unfortunate closing of the gap in X between stamina and defense as far as KO resistance. It's gotten a lot closer. Because stamina types do have the ability to kind of hide into the corners, and the rail is thicker, and the pockets are only on one side of the stadium, this means stamina types are harder to KO than they used to be. And vice versa, because we don't really have any rubber defense stuff, because we're mostly relying on weight-based defense, or we're using shapes that deflect, we're using height, stuff like that, right? The gap for defense it's a lot easier to KO defense in this generation, comparatively to how it would be if it was, like, made well. Essentially what I'm trying to say is, as far as KOing, it is hard to make a stamina type that isn't too spicy to not be good for stamina type, but it's spicy enough to be able to be KO'd, like is vulnerable enough to KOs. And they didn't really need to do that because they circumvented it with the burst issue. Not only that, but they solved the issue of, well, it still gets outspun by Goon by just making it really hard to spin steal off of. And that was really, really, really smart as well. So, yeah, they basically designed a perfect, like, stamina type that's fragile to attack, but still wrecks all stamina types. It gives you, like, a consistent rock, paper, scissors option. There's no, like, I'm going to do a lot of 50-50, or I'm going to go hope they have Hexa so my Silver Wolf does something kind of deals. You just have I'll be able to outspin this cringe. And if they want to attack, then they did good, and they get a point. They get points for that. That's a good thing. What I'm saying is that this thing is bad against attack, and stamina type should be. And the fact that we finally have a stamina type that's good, that beats all the stamina types and it isn't good against attack, means that we have a closing off of the food chain. Rod was the best stamina option beforehand. So if you wanted to run stamina, there wasn't an option that wasn't also tanky. So if you were just trying to run stamina types, you would still be getting, like, you'd still be running something tanky at the end of the day. Whereas this, you gotta choose. And if you're running this, you gotta be serious. It only gains 1 point. So if it's just getting ragdolled by attack the whole time, it's not going to be very good. If you can harness it and you can outpredict people, and especially in deck, this is like a huge checkmate in deck. If they don't have something that outspins this, and they don't have something that KOs this, or like bursts it, if they just have like all 3 cringe stamina types, then you mop the floor with them with this. That's like the whole point. And not only that, you can use this to set up like feedback loop. This is how you got to think about like deck play, because I know a lot of you are more familiar with the 3v3 style. Let's say I just won a battle. Let's say I won a battle with stamina. I will throw this out as my defense type. That way, they either have to KO my defense type or outspin my defense type for 1 point. They're obviously going to go with the 1 point outspin in a lot of cases. Right? They could try to hoof it with attack because this is a feedback loop, so they could definitely try to break it, but they win that battle. The issue is now it's like, well, I go Rod Ditto, or I have to break the feedback loop back. I have to hoof it out with attack, which is not easy, right? Like, compared to how it should be. But if we have Clock that does that instead, yeah, Clock takes the point. But now if they continue to keep their Clock in, I counter with attack. They, if they're smart, they can just win with stamina and then themselves go, nope, I'm throwing in my defense type. So now I go in with my Clock, right, and I outspin them. But you kind of see how that feedback loop works now. You can't just throw a wrench into the plan of like, all right, what now? You still gotta use attack. You still gotta have the skill. And that's why deck feels awful. It's because there's no break in the chain. There's no break in the feedback loop. There's no easy way to deal with the top stamina defense combo. Now there is. So now there is. If you are throwing this out here, you are risking a lot of points. If they pick this, then you pick this easy. But if you're just throwing this out from like a first pick, you're risking so much. They could just be like this. And now it's like, oh, now you're counter picking. But you are going to have to make up points now. And if you are a stamina defense deck, making a point is a lot harder than attack decks, or even just balance decks. But yeah, that's kind of the effect I think it's going to have on the meta. Also, depending on like the tech, if people find that like the whole weak launch tilting thing really just does make it so hard to burst that it's like broken, then hey, we'll see. But I don't know, I feel like that's always going to be a linchpin. If it's a linchpin for Goon, that's like a left spin bay that you launch weak and can spin steal, it's going to be a linchpin for like a tall stamina with an exposed ratchet. I have always just used 960 on my Dragoon because not only is it smoother, so it's not going to burst as easily, and not only does it have like more internal weight and less outward weight for like that late game stability, but it also just slides and it doesn't scrape on the ground like 5 does. And 5 doesn't scrape very much, but it can stop it a little early. I don't know why people use 5. I get it, but it's because it's for the outward weight, but I still like 9. As far as 3v3, this is going to be a little scary to use. You're going to want to selectively pick this. If you have the option to pick your decks, then you're going to want to pick your deck. If you know somebody is like a stamina player, or you think that somebody is probably going to play things safe in this instance, maybe you know it's late in the tournament, something like that, having a good stamina build like this is going to be a really good tactic, but it's not going to be a tactic against someone you know is like an aggro player. Like, there's a lot of people I would not put this out on. If you don't have that choice, I would keep it as a sideboard because it is fragile. You don't want to have it in every match. It does kind of suck that you waste a sideboard like that, but I guess I think it's a good use. I talked about this a little bit in my 3v3 video, but they don't want typically to put their attack types in the last slot because they're going to want to get any attack points they can get right off the bat. Because hey, if they're fighting against some people, like the battle could be over before the third match. Now they may put attack in the last slot for sweeping, but it's, you know what I mean? It's not ideal in a lot of cases. Unless they have like double or triple attack. You maybe want to put it in front because a lot of people will front run with their like defensive stamina type because it's a safety pick. You're not really going to be losing too much right off the bat. You also don't have to risk like a skilled attack match right off the bat. So it's always a good choice to put something like that in. I would not say you really want to put it in the middle, because 1 point in the middle of your deck isn't achieving anything. 1 point at the end sweeps up. And these 3 combos here are normal. If I put this in the middle, right, 1 point, not gonna do much. But if I've already won, I beat their attack type with my defense type, I actually got a KO on their stamina type. I sweep up 1 point extra with the stamina finish on their defense type. 1 point, 2 points, 4 points, and that's the final match. But if you put it here, it's like, oh, okay, you got 2 points, but it's like, now it's all hinging on this. If I don't win this, I'm at a disadvantage. But again, it is smart because people do want to hide their fragile stuff in the last slot. So again, it's not like specific. I'm just trying to give you the vibe of kind of what goes, at least in my brain when I'm picking. I guess some people don't think about this stuff, but this is generally like the flow chart based on what makes sense matchup wise. If you have it in the front and they front run with their defense type or whatever stamina type they want to use, they front run with either of them, you're golden, but it is still risky because if they get 2 or 3 points right off the bat on you, then you're in a bad spot for the whole game. You almost want to think about points as the battles you have in a tournament. If you lose 1 battle right off the bat, that kind of sucks. If you lose 1 at the end, it's not too bad. If you lose 2 at the beginning, that really sucks. You basically gotta claw your way back. There's more pressure. Well, if you win the first 3, the pressure isn't mounting to the point where you would be more likely to lose the next 2. So you're just in a more rough position if you lose the first 2. Plus, once you have a 3-point finish, you're at a stage where you are backed up against a wall because anything your opponent does is gonna win. You can do anything you want. That's the nice part about being at 3 points is you don't have to be cautious because you're not protecting any like lead. But on the other end of the spectrum, it sucks because you can't lose any match. You don't have any buffer. You can't lose one and then come back in the next one. Your buffer is gone. And that makes decision making a lot more like, oh, I might be willing to scout something with this stamina type to lose 1 point if I can set up a later strategy with the next 2 Beyblades. What I'm saying is kind of madman, insane rambling, and you're probably gonna think that, but I'm trying to give you like the general, again, vibe of when you're gonna want to play something like this. And also in the reshuffle, if you know they have something that can outspin or stonewall your other stuff, they got a really important decision to make. Do they go with this and call you out for risking this to call out their cringe? Or do they go with the cringe? If they go with the cringe, 2 out of 3 chance you get them. You basically put the agency on them to make this smart decision. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Back in the day, it was just kind of, oh, I hope my stamina defense type is better than their stamina defense type. I'm just glad we have like order. We can just really think about things, and I also think this is gonna throw a gap between the really good defensive stamina players and like the ones that just grift off Rod and Goon. My problem was that I didn't have a stamina type that did have that downside. I want a stamina type with a downside because I want to be punished if I fail. Even if that punishment is going, oh shit, I'm about to get burst, I'm about to throw the match. That's still a punishment, right? Especially if it's like every match I gotta fucking just throw clock down the drain. It's not gonna work out. I will be like, fuck, I need to reconsider shit next time. Deck locks are gonna make it harder, for sure. Deck locks are gonna make this Beyblade like, if you throw this in your main deck, it's a little skull emoji. Basically, like whoever you get is whoever you get. If you run into somebody who's running all like stationary spicy stuff and like an attack type here and there, you're probably screwed. But if you run into someone running medic slop, you're probably good. It kind of turns the bracket into like a coin flip each match. Like, not that it wasn't already that, but if you're using clock, you don't have like the whole everything is versatile and can win whatever matchup thing. You really do have to get this all out on the money to make it work. Overall, I think clock is going to be a staple part of the meta. I'm sorry, y'all. No whiteboard section today. I can't be pulling that stuff off right now. You get Bladekid Insane Ramblings instead. I like that as Twisted Tempo as well, because I really like Twisted Tempo. I honestly wish they like actually did something where each of the different colors had the different stock combos. And I think that the last one, the pink one, should have been an Acid Anubis homage. Because that would, like, this is like Acid Anubis coded. That would have been neat, I think. Alright, I'm rambling and gambling. Peace.